Hi again, part 2 of this video. So, as promised, the last element about the author of the Zena Halpern's map and the date. So that Cliffus Licinius, I was thinking in the break, while I was after shooting the first part, is it 3 people, generation after generation, who use the same signature, or is it 3 different people identified by their signature through ages? I don't know yet which one to choose. We'll see if we get more information on the second part here. Let's have a look at document number 3. Document number 3, I've never seen that before. And it's got the same style, and of course it's the same information as the maps that have been features in the Oak Island show by Zena Halpern to the team. Especially this one, you may recognize something familiar there with that round the Earth, probably with the latitude there, and you can see it's Nova Scotia here, with Oak Island being right here in the Mahone Bay with La Déesse, La Mère de Dieu. Those information have been displayed already. What we see also in this map, and is highlighted by Scott himself, again this comes from one of his conference, is the Newport area with what they call the observatory, l'observatoire. And this observatory is located right where the Newport Tower is. So that's what they called l'observatoire, and that's the area Verrazzano, the explorer, was talking about as the refuge. Interesting. You see the eye? Does that remind you something on the map? The eye this way? You see the T, set line, set point? You see the E, you see the R? It looks quite familiar to the letters on the Zena Halpern's map. But we'll get back to this. Let's carry on. On this top right section here, it seems there's detail about this area here, wherever that is, and there seems to be, oh my gosh, some underground mechanism, but it's not Oak Island, it's another place, and it's another mechanism. We don't see it very well here, so ask one of my viewers on the French channel if he could do some magic with some Photoshop system or whatever, and he gave me this. We can see better now. Yeah, it looks like an apparatus with tunnels going to a chamber. There's some underground pit, kind of like the vault mechanism that would be on Oak Island, but not exactly like it. It's interesting. Here you find a map. It is a map with some building here, the north, south, east, west quadrant, maybe a harbor, and maybe there's something to find or has been found already. And the map goes, if you look on the left here, almost all the way to New York. And that's from my friend Dot to Dot, Michael, who in one of his videos, the Templar Journey West to Oak Island and Beyond, retraces from the Cremona documents that voyage, that trip, and it hits New York, and it hits the Newport Tower, and it's kind of the areas those people were hanging out at the time. So interesting map that Scott Walter has got that we don't have, and that we would like to have, please, Mr. Walter. There's also some text here, which is in Latin, and we're working on it, about the signification. It's about somebody who played bad trick on somebody else, and there's a fake map and a real map and something like this. Interesting. So these are the maps that we've got from the Scrolls of Onteora, and according to Zena, some of the maps were also in the book, hidden in the back sleeve, and some of them come from the Scroll of Onteora. Interesting. So let me get back here. That area here, that's highlighted there, that seems to be described in that schematic there, that area is referenced here. It's this area there, and it's referenced to Le Trésor, La Place Le Trésor. Interesting, huh? And in the underground there might be another mechanism, and we need to look at where is this. Obviously, you can go by water all the way to that river. Is that the Jordan River they're talking about that they explored? I don't know, because it's not called Jordan River nowadays anymore, so I can't find any reference to it. But it would be, then you just walk a couple of miles and you're there at that spot. And you get all the angles to get to it. That one is very interesting. This one everybody knows. This one's been on the show. That's the one Zena brings. And what's fascinating, so again here on the left hand side that's from Donsru, on the right hand side that's from Zena, but it's the same map, it's the same place, isn't it? Yes it is, with the Trésor. You can see the original color, and now it's rose or pink, but maybe it's not the same document. Maybe this is not a picture with a filter of this. This could be two different pages written at two different times, even though the spelling is exactly the same. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's the same page with the photo effect. But what's very interesting is here on Scott Walter's document we never saw, the Nova Scotia part here is the same as the one on the pink document, except on the document on the left hand side there's that continuation marker where you would overlay this section and stick it to here to make this. Because here on the right hand side it's the same information, it's the same La Déesse, it's the same La Mère de Deus, La Mère de Deus must be here, La Déesse is here, alright, it's the same coordinate points, but what you get is a full-blown image of Nova Scotia, when here it's in two parts. So those map makers, those Licinius, have been over the time producing many maps of the same thing. And here we have a proof of it. We have one general map, the big one with everything on it, and here we get, would it be a detail map? Because all this part here, we don't have it here. It's not as detailed. So is there a general area map? And is there a detailed one? Now, by the way, if this is a hoax, oh my gosh, those guys took a lot of time making it real or acceptable by having two, and those here were reported there, no problem, but they seem to be detailed map and overall map. Unbelievable that Scott Walters got this map. So there's other locations, it seems. Oak Island is just one of them. Wow. Now, those maps we find on the Scrolls of Onterra and through the conference from Scott or Zena or whatever source, those maps on the top right corner, they've got a number, which I believe is the page number of the map, and they've got a signature, right? The CL, the CLY signature, that one. It's the same on the three documents, the same Cliffus Licinius. And here you have a date on top of that. So that date in Roman reads 1179, which corresponds exactly to the Scroll of Onterra 1 Year to Remember trip by the Templars. Probably the year Cliffus Licinius died, struck by a lightning bolt, or maybe it was at the end of the trip, according to the book. Maybe 1180 he died, and he produced those maps right before. But don't get me wrong, this is not from 1179. The paper is too crisp. The ink is too crisp. No. This is a reproduction by a Cliffus Licinius, probably from 1965, the reproduction of the map originally sketched by Cliffus Licinius in 1179. And by lineage, those map makers, as he said, I recompile maps. I redraw them according to the information I've got from other sources. Maybe he didn't, maybe this is not from 1965. Could be from 1908. Could be, because this date is going to ring a bell in a moment. Could be from another, but it's not from the map, the paper, and the ink is not from 1179, but the information that is into that map was recorded in 1179. I think that's what is explained here. Clephus Licinius in 1179 recorded this information, maybe on a lamb skin, maybe on an animal skin, and then for preservation, it was reproduced over and over again by those Clephus Licinius who carried on. And when you see the 3 here signature, the one we're talking about, this one is that one, right? It's that Clephus Licinius who recorded those maps. And according to the Scroll of Antera, it is the same Clephus Licinius who died on the trip. So he probably had the maps made earlier. Indeed, since the maps, it could be by boat, you can record those maps. And he probably died at the end of the trip. According to the book, it's at the end of the trip. Yeah, I remind you this, Clephus Licinius sailed with the Gotlanders in 1159, and again with the Poor Knight of Christ, 1179. It's on that trip that he created those maps, or he recorded the information that you can see in that map that's much more modern. So it seems that signature corresponds to the Clephus Licinius of 1179. If you remember from the past video about the inheritance and the documents that Don Rue received from Bill Jackson's friend who passed away themselves, here, whoever writes this says this is the final version of the report. The report might include the maps and texts and etc. Lots of documents. The first version dates from 1308. After Clephus Licinius died in 1179, most probably. That's when he died on the trip. So the first version of the revisions is from 1308. It was revised 3 times until the present one, 1908. So what he writes here is from 1908. He explains the full package was created in 1308 using maps from Clephus Licinius from 1179. The full package, the Scrolls of Antera, the Cremona, the documents, the maps, the instructions, blah blah, has been revised 3 times, and the last version, so the last version where you would get document, is 1908. And that was from my last video, so I'm not going to go over it. Just this, about the ships that went right before the Templar order was destroyed by Philippe le Bel in 1307, and they got arrested. 3 years before, the Grand Master Jacques de Molay organized 3 ships to depart from La Rochelle for the New World, which was not discovered officially yet. And in the Valiant ship, there were 68 men on board, 5 chests of silver, and he also took on board the cartographer Sotomon Isarbo, son of Licinius Isarbo. And they arrived at the observatory, the Newport Tower. That's when they went to, in the land of the Micmacs, and maybe later were guided to Oak Island, or to other places where they hide this, not under Oak Island, but under the other location. There might be some underground apparatus according to the big map of Scott Walter. So Solomon Isarbo, the cartographer of 1304 in this trip, was the son of Clephus Licinius Isarbo, the 17th, and that you find on the Scroll of Antera, that notion that there was a Clephus Isarbo, which was the 17th, and the date corresponds. So there is a lineage of Clephus Licinius Isarbo, either by father to son, or if the father didn't have a son because he died before, or for whatever reason, they would name somebody, I guess. If you remember also from my last video or the one before, I was mentioning something about John Stammer's show, and hello John if you watch this video. In one of in this video I reference here at 18 minutes 12 seconds, John says this comes from Ron, an email to John Stanner, supposedly written in 1908 by CLY on the Wars of the Lord document, the book of the War of the Lord. So John receives from a Ron, which I think is Scott Walter now, an email about this, which was written in 1908 by a CLY. I don't know this, but Scott Walter does. So he probably gave that information under the pseudo Ron. And so our cliff is Licinius' signature. So I believe, or we think, this one is from 1179 because it shows on the maps. And we got two official Cliffinus Licinius reference now, one from 1908 and one from 1304, father or son of another one. So we get two Cliffinus for two CLY for the price of one in that period. We know there's a father and there's a son. But there's another one in 1908, and there's the first one in 1179. The one from 1908, it's carry on. There's another one. It's in the Oak Island Knight Templar and Holy Grail, the book I was reviewing last time, and that's the type of document they receive coded, and they have to decode them. And this under note is highlighted here. The message was dated to this message here is dated to 1965, the most recent of all encrypted messages in the Cremonade document. So probably one last revision after 1908, since it says this is the latest revision number 3, V3. It seems in 1965 somebody was still writing about and is still using the CLY, because the most recent of all encrypted message, and it's signed Talako 2. We suspect, that's Scott Walter talking, we suspect this is the son or grandson, again, the son of grandson story of Licinius Isabeau. Same name as the one in 1179, who signed his name at the end of scandal like CLY. They all use that CLY pseudo, those map makers. And talako. So one of my viewers wrote me that talako is some Choctaw Native American name used for a Burraman associated with the eagle. Could it be that those CLY lineage, that's what I'm thinking of, making a hypothesis, is a Micmac lineage who welcomed the first one coming over, then Ralph the Sudley, then those guys who came to hide something. And generation to generation, it was a Micmac, the first one in 1179, who was already in contact with the Vikings and Eric the Red, maybe in Lance Omedo. That was the first contact, guys. Maybe. I don't know, maybe. But they use CLY as the pseudo generation after generation. What do we have here? Yeah, so yeah, the last message in 1769. We suspect it's a grandson. Okay, so that works. 1908, 1965. If somebody is born in 1908, in 38 is at 30 years old. In 1938 is at 30 years old. If it's got a son in 1965, that could work. If it's got his son in 1928, it's his grandson, but it's a direct link. So there's one in 1908 and there's one in 1965, and they probably are son and grandson. Again, Scott Walter here during his conference at the bottom, this is about the book of the War of the Lord, and you can read if you're interested. It is something in there, but what's most interesting is here. Known by the signal of my ancestors, all I write is true. Talako, Grey Eagle, CLY. Here we had in 1965 Talako 2. 1965 Talako 2. So Talako 0 or Talako 1 probably from 1908. So this was written in 1908, if that's his father. Still CLY. Grey Eagle, that's true, that's the eagle. Talako, the Grey Eagle. Document number 4 is the one that I've never seen before. He produced that on his show. So first of all, note underneath, it saw that earlier, but that thing here at the bottom is nothing but that thing that he was hiding from us, and you can find it right here. And here is a map. It's not Oak Island. I don't know which map it is, where it is. They've got so much document. And here, maybe some UV light, I don't know, ultraviolet light, I don't know. But here's some Theban text we haven't decoded yet, and we're working on it with one of my viewers from the French side of the channel. But again, if this is a hoax, oh my gosh, what a hoax. There's documents everywhere. That's the place. Document number 5, the last one. So Ron says that passage, that piece of handwriting, which is pages of a lost book mentioned in the Bible but never seen, called the Book of the War of the Lord. And Ron tells John Stammer on his show that this is written by CLY in 1908. In CLY, we're going to see that yes, but in 1908, I don't know where he's got that from. But if you look at this, and I already started to give you a hint on the first part of the video that some characters were really, really similar to what we find on the Oak Island map. If we do some zooming here, and we can take any section basically, and I'll let you do that if you want. The way the T's, the way the H, the way the E's, the way the T's, all the, sorry, oops. You can look at this from here, but there's really, really some huge similarity here in the letters than the one written on the Oak Island map. Too many similarities to me. It's I think that's it. The guy who wrote the text on the left-hand side is the same guy who wrote on the right-hand side. And this was highlighted during John Stammer's show, that there were some definite resemblance. And in the context, it works. This map is likely to have been written in 1908 by Calato, by CLY. And CLY is just the depository of a secret, from a map point of view, cartographer. They were making maps. No wonder they made that map. No wonder they hide things in it. And that Calato 1, the grandfather, was speaking fluent French. I don't know why, I don't know how. Maybe because he was Micmac ascendants, and then they speak French in that part of Canada. I don't know. But if you, and I'll zoom again for you. I'll try to here. The T from the voice, you'll find it here on the right hand side. I mean, come on, look at this. The I here. Does that ring a bell with the I from this I? The Sud Indien? Where is it? Down here. I here. I'm going to show you the other one on the left hand side. Where was it? If I find it, I can find any capital I. They're all written the same. The T, the Talmon. The T, the Talmon. The small t here. If I get it with my pen. The small t. Take any t here. I mean, just have a look for yourself. I'm convinced, without beyond any reasonable doubt, as they say. I'm so convinced. The L, leader, the OF, this is the same spelling, left and right. So the map on the right hand side, known as the Zena Halpern's map, was created in 1708, most likely, maybe 1965, but I don't believe it. 1908, sorry, 1908, by a Cliffus Licinius, whatever number it is, probably 40 or 50 something, I don't know. And his son or his grandson carried on the file, carried on the information, and for some reason Bill Jackson got a copy of that 1908 map, from whom we don't know, and hide it, did not give it away to nobody, and hide it in the back of a book. And by chance, or by information we don't know about, Donru found it at Zena Halpern's house, and Zena gave it away to the team and the show, meaning that if the shows got it, the production, Dunn doesn't have it anymore. They didn't give it back, and Dunn and Scott are making any occasion to yell and scream at them, saying, "These are our documents, give us back." So this still in the hands of the show, I think. They didn't get them back, and to me it's the key, and Michael is on my side, I think. It's the key and to the solution of what's underneath. The puzzle, the 7 pieces puzzle with the underground, that comes from the same source. Those guys, those CLY guys, who maintain those scrolls of Onteora. And what happened in 1965 and after, I don't know. We don't know. But let us recap with a chronology proposed by those Don Roux Scott Walters document. What this chronology is about. 1158, Clive CLY sailed with the people from Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. They sailed where? Well, to Labrador coast, most likely, to the settlement, or maybe further, Lanceau-Meadow, which was founded in 980. 1174, so some 14 years later, 16 years later, Cliffus Licinius, I corrected myself, sailed with the poor Knights of the Christ, the Templars, for 6 years, which corresponds to the years of the Scrolls of Onteora. And that Cliffus died in Nova Scotia and did not return from the trip. The maps came back, but not him. He was still alive in 1179, since he wrote that map in 1179, the Rose map. I think he wrote the map during the trip. And that package went back to the temple, maybe in Seborga. And some other Cliffus Licinius took over and maintained those information, added information from other people, giving that information to explorers that were on their sides, like Verrazzano maybe. In 1304, the Valiant, one of the 3 ships, boarded from La Rochelle to Oak Island, basically, Nova Scotia for sure. And on one of the boats, there was a cartographer called Sotomont Isarbo, not Cliffus Licinius. It was called Sotomont. I don't know. Maybe he was a youngster, and when he was grown up, he would be called CLY. But his father was Cliffus Licinius Isarbo the 17th, already in 1304. I don't know if the first one in 1158 was the first. And this expedition created Oak Island. In 15, so that also means that if the first Cliffus Licinius was picked up on the first trip in Lanceau-Meadow because he knew the waters ahead, this Cliffus Licinius here was probably living in France since he departed from La Rochelle. Interesting. In 1512, we're in the Renaissance. Related to Capelli, worked with De Leon, which was an explorer from Spain, with Verrazzano. Now we know what Verrazzano did when he came back from his trip discovering New York. He went back and wrote a letter and met François Ier, François I. And you know who was François I sheltering at the time? Leonardo da Vinci. Interesting. Verrazzano discovers New Angoulême, the Hudson River, and New Scotland. In 1643, an unsuccessful attempt to recover the treasure. 1769, according to Don Roux's last book, Captain McLaren, and I got a video coming up about the McLaren, recovers the treasure. 1795, sorry, the British Navy had in their possession some part of this document, of the Cremona document, and went to shaft number 3. That's probably why they find so much late 1700s British coins and apparatus and paraphernalia on the island, maybe during the excavation from the show. The same year, that's interesting, the same year Von Smith and McInnes find entrance to the shaft, number 3, also. Probably because the Navy didn't cover up very well, I don't know. 1908, a passage from the Book of the War of the Lord is copied by Cliffus Licinius. The map of Oak Island, and that's my assertion, the map of Oak Island is drawn the same year. From other documents they had, since they were keep on compiling and adding up. So there are other documents similar to the map from Zena, but we don't have access to them. Maybe Scots would get them. In 1965, Talako 2, another CLY, another Cliffus Licinius. wrote the last known message, is the son or grandson of Talako, who gave the coded message Sakanda, which is in his book, and I didn't spend time on it, and the passage of the Book of the Ward and the map of Oak Island. In 1971, Bill Jackson obtains the files, which were called at the time the De Leon files, which is the Cremona document, from the Church of Cremona before the Vatican buys it. So 6 years after the last message from Talako, the whole set of documents is in the Cremona church and is about to be sold to the Vatican, meaning that those Talako people and that cly lineage didn't care anymore starting 1975. There was nothing that had to be kept secret, it seems. 1980, Fred Nolans finds Nolan's Cross, which is crucial in solving the problem. Year 2000, Bill Jackson dies, and 2017, I keep on putting 2007, but I think it's 17, of course. I'm gonna grab the book. Give me a second. There you go. So that one is from the Scrolls of Antiera to 17. I was wrong all the way in the video. So it is 2017 indeed. So yeah, what a story, huh? Those Clyphus listeners everywhere, they admit, if it's all true, they admit they are map makers from the first trip, and they are maintaining, compiling those maps, which makes sense back in the days. A new precise map of the region, let's add up, but nowadays with satellite imagery and what's happening on the island, they don't care anymore. It's been removed. Now we have to follow the Captain McLaren's trail, which I started. Oh, that was still in French. Sorry. I forgot to translate that one because of this. That's the. So what did I say in French? The Oak Island map, known as the Zena map, was created in 1908 by Clyphus Licinus Iserbo. The map was part of the set of documents known under the Cremona documents, but was not written in 1179. It came way after as an invention from one of the CLY. In the eye of Bill Jackson, it was important enough not to be left to other members of the Spartan group or Judea. He hid it himself by creating a spy type of secret compartment in one of the Emmanuel Anati's book, and by giving hints about this book in other books, and it was discovered by Donald and Zena Halpern at Zena's in 2011. And that's again that map. That now finally I can put a name on it. It took me 4 years. Gosh. Thank you. Subscribe if you like. And hope to talk to you soon. Enjoy the video. Bye bye.